So there's a clip that went somewhat viral over the weekend from what was called a sub-spectrum tournament that was in Des Moines, Iowa. Uh, it's a pretty nasty video. I'll play through it really soon. But the reason why I decided to make a video on it is because I think there's an interesting conversation to be had just about jiu-jitsu tournaments as a whole in terms of when you have someone locked up in a submission, especially if it's a joint submission, how hard you should go there, and just some of the stuff I've seen online. I think there's actually an interesting discussion to have. So I'll kind of put my take on it, but first I'll just read through what Jordan Pietzman, who's the guy who runs Subspectrum, had to say about it, and then show the clip. So he's just saying, warning, extremely graphic. I've gone back and forth over whether or not to release this footage due to its graphic nature. Ultimately, I decided it would be a disservice to Hannah, who's the girl who won by Kimura, and her overall performance on Saturday night if I did not. Additionally, Sandy, who's the girl who had her arm popped, has a champion's heart and mentality. She's already in a cast and talking about being ready to start drilling and wondering when her next opportunity to compete in Subspectrum will be. She's an absolute warrior. This is the sport of jiu-jitsu in its rawest form. We do not intend for these kinds of things to happen, but unfortunately from time to time they do. So here's the clip. And if you have headphones in or if you're just listening and you have a loud volume on, this is going to be kind of gross, so be ready.
Underhook and Kimura. She's looking to come to that armbar on the far side. Keep everything tight. She's looking to isolate. Start sliding out. Start sliding out.
I'll play it again.
Watch out on that underhook and Kimura. She's looking to come to that armbar on the far side. Keep everything tight. She's looking to isolate. Start sliding out. Start sliding out.
Jeez. Yeah, so obviously pretty nasty here. You can see her arms sort of bent backwards. I didn't really get to see online if there was any official word on what happened to her arm exactly. The medic right here actually trains at the gym that I go to. She's a pro belt there. I haven't had a chance to talk to her about it yet. We haven't been in the same time, but one of the other people I train with has had the chance. So I guess it's kind of like playing telephone because I heard secondhand from him and you're hearing third hand from me. But what the word is that it was like a break that was sort of on the elbow here. So the elbow just kind of got blown up and it was like a bone issue. I've had some issues in the past with injuries from Kimuras or like similar submissions. Like I guess the omoplata in a way is sort of like similar, but it's more the legs where I had my elbow get pretty damaged from it where it popped. But for me, I was pretty fortunate in that it was just a sprain of the ulnar collateral ligament, also known as the Tommy John ligament. So had it gone a little bit further, I probably would have needed Tommy John surgery. Fortunately for me, it was just about 6 to 8 weeks of rehab and slowly just kind of like building back from there to get back in. But in her case, obviously, 6 to 8 weeks of rehab is not going to be enough for her. She's going to need a little bit more help than that. Looks like there was definitely a breakage there. But to the larger point, as far as if you're doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, how hard should you go? To one extent, if you're competing, you are going harder than you would be going in the room. So if you do have someone in a Kimura, you're not just going to stop and potentially give up the position and then lose if they're unwilling to tap. So to an extent, you kind of have to go through it. How hard you want to go through it is a different question. I think in this case, both of them kind of have some responsibility, and that the girl who was on top and who won by Kimura, she was pretty ruthless with it, and she went right after it. But at the same point, once this girl's arm was isolated, and it looked like she really didn't have a whole lot of an opportunity to get away, she seemed to kind of let it go a little bit longer than she should have. So just to play it again and get to that point.
Watch out on that underhook and Kimura. She's looking to come to that armbar on the far side.
At this point, she knows that Kimura's coming for a while. She's had a few different chances to defend. Kind of weird that she's separating her arms here. So now, when it gets away at this point, you probably have to tap. So for the girl on bottom, yes, there is some responsibility on her behalf to say, hey, look, I'm probably not getting out here. I'm kind of stuck. For the girl on top, like I get the idea, like, hey, you got the Kimura, you don't know if this girl's going to slip out. The control could be a little bit better here, but I mean, she's got more than enough control to finish, and obviously she did finish. But she definitely yanks it pretty hard here. And yeah, there's that sound again. But just from a general understanding, if you're watching MMA, these guys are getting paid a ton of money, and even still, these guys in the UFC at least, everyone's getting 10 and 10 to the minimum. So even if you lose, you're getting 10,000 before anything gets taken out. But even still, if you think about all the time that's going to have to be missed to rehab this, the medical expenses that they're going to be, I guess at least in MMA, at an event, the insurance should cover it for you. But in a jiu-jitsu tournament, you're kind of just working off your own health insurance here. So this lady who probably paid like $70 to $100 to compete here is also gonna have to pay for all the medical stuff. Plus, there's all the time and agony that she's got to deal with in rehabbing. And the rehab from injuries is always kind of the forgotten part, especially in MMA. I think a lot of fans, like, you see a fighter lose a fight, or even if they win a fight, they walk out of the octagon, and from there on, you just don't even know anything about them until they are scheduled to fight again. But a lot of times, their life is impacted pretty badly by the injuries, or just like simple things that you would think wouldn't be much of an issue end up becoming an issue for them. Like, I had a recent tournament where my ankle got popped in an ankle lock, and just like trying to walk around and like within my own apartment, like I'd have to be like hobbling around the place just to be able to get to the refrigerator. Even for like a couple weeks after then, like walking around work was an issue. I was fortunate that I work at a job where I could sit at a desk. But anytime I have to walk around to like go to a meeting, that would always be just like a real pain in the ass. So there kind of has to be some ethic when you're doing these jiu-jitsu tournaments or other tournaments or even MMA fights where there isn't a whole lot of money on the line. We have to understand, like, these people have to kind of get back to work, and they have at least their own mouth to feed, if not others. So if you do get them in a submission, especially in a joint submission where there's going to be some sort of long-term damage and they're going to have to deal with rehab for a long period of time, you kind of want to be more careful, and you kind of want to make sure you have control of the submission, but then just kind of finish a little bit more slowly. And in this case, I think this could have been prevented on both ends, both on the girl by tapping a little bit sooner, but then also the girl on top, maybe not yanking quite as hard on it and just kind of slowly going through to the finish. Because the thing is, with a lot of these positions, you know when you pretty much have it. You don't have to go all the way to the maximum until something pops. With the only exception maybe being if there's short time and there's like 10 seconds left and you catch someone in something and you have a feeling that they're going to just hold it out, then maybe at that point you kind of have to rush into it and try to force it before the time runs out. But that wasn't the case here. So something you hate to see. It's something I'd rather not see as much of in jiu-jitsu competitions, but it happens. So in the comments, let me know what you guys think. If you think, hey, if you sign up for a competition, you kind of have to be ready for what could potentially happen. You understand the risk going in. So if someone's going to rip at your arm, so be it. Or do you feel that as the person with the submission, it's kind of your responsibility to understand and kind of show some passion for the person you're going against? And if you get them in some sort of joint lock, don't rip or don't try to rip through it and break their arm or rip their tendons apart, but just kind of go a little bit slower, make sure you have control, and slowly work your way into it and give them a chance to tap before something like this happens. So go ahead and let me know.